Hello everyone. So in this video, we are going to break apart my channeled theory behind life as we know it and are the way they are. We're going to dive into my theory of consciousness and how we all must go through certain gates of experience so that we can collect the scenes needed for our movie in the Library of Souls. I posted a video, and I will link it below, of my theory on how we are each the main character in our own movie, and all of these movies put together are what creates this ultimate library of souls that will be accessible essentially in heaven when you are at your highest evolved version of self. It's not necessary to listen to that before this episode. It may help you understand things a little more clearly. Again, I will link it below. But for a very quick summary, we are all the main character in our own movie, and the people who are in our lives and the situations and basically everything that requires energy in our lives, which is everything, is paid to stay in our movie through an energy exchange as a form of currency. How you say you pay attention to something, you are giving it your energy and hence buying that experience so that you can have that scene or element or character in the movie of your life in which you are the main character, just like everyone is the main character in their own life movie. I do also plan on doing a visual representation of that theory as well. I just felt like this one could reach more people and make more sense and really help you connect with your own intuition and inner guidance through understanding how it works on a more deep and intimate level, which is what I hope to do here. By the end of this particular video, I hope to show you how social media is the literal reinterpretation of our higher selves or ultimate self, filming the movie of our lives that we then submit to the Library of Souls. It's all as above, so below, and it's really about to come full circle once you understand the why and the how behind what is happening in all of our lives. In this episode, I'm going to dig in deeper to the blueprint that we all go through in order to create a movie that will be understood as well as valued by our peers, because we all will have gone through what you will soon see are similar gates of experience. And basically we're collecting feelings and we're collecting experiences, and these are going in to create the scenes of our movie that will ultimately be available as a sitcom where we, the highest conscious version of ourselves, will be able to sit at a computer and quickly view the story of someone else to see what made them who they are. You are going to see as above, so below as a repeated theme here. Now everything is represented by something else in this universe. It's a dualistic universe, and that is because in order to give something meaning, you have to have something to compare it to or against. Circle in the very center, conscious version of ourselves. This is the part of us that remembers our connection to source, remembers why we're here, remembers our purpose, and basically remembers the scenes of the movie that our higher self is receiving and sending out to our current self. Let me break it down a little further. So this full conscious version of ourself includes the past version of us that agreed to take the human experience. This is our higher self. This is the part of our consciousness that actively remembers sitting down, knowing why we're coming to Earth, knowing what it's going to entail, what it's going to feel like, knowing what to anticipate and accept, and signing up for it anyway, because this part of us knows that the end result is worth it. This higher conscious version of ourselves also includes the version of us that's actively telling the story in our movie, which is our future self. That's the narrator in our movie. So that is basically consciousness, which is, let's say, a spirit, becoming man, becoming you, taking an active role in your movie. In this full consciousness, it also includes the current version of us that is actively acting out what's being spoken in the movie in real time. So this is your current consciousness and the level to which your current consciousness resides. So basically, in this section, we have consciousness becomes man, becomes woman, becomes human. And then consciousness asks itself, what am I? And then consciousness goes on the process of finding that out, so that consciousness can come full circle back to what it's already known, but know why. Now, basically, all of our movie is the same title of the scenes. These titles are gates in this reference. So we all go through, let's say, gates 1 through 9. We all go through gates 1 through 9 so that no matter how your gates look in your movie, if we've all gone through similar gates, we can relate to one another when we are sitting to watch one another's movie. Oh, you went through that? I went through that too. I felt it in a different way. I experienced it in a different way, but the emotions, the meaning of the emotions, we can relate to one another because I also went through that gate. It looked different. It had different characters, but I went through that gate. So I can relate to your movie in each stage because I know similar how you must have felt because I have an experience that is similar enough that I can relate my experience to yours each step of the way, which is why we each go through these gates pretty much in order. The first gate or the first example of the unseen realm to the seen realm is that of the gate of conception, which is the first gate. Conception, the word itself means the forming or devising of a plan or idea. So that is similar to when we sat down and signed the contract saying, okay, I will go and I will complete this movie. Fine, I'll do it. So then the next gate, gate 2, is we all go through a similar experience there. Then gate 3, we have the crown chakra. In this chakra, on the descension process. So descension process is learning and experiencing. So that is what we're doing on the way down, the descension process. So gate 3 is the crown chakra, which brings enlightenment, unity, and our connection to source into question. This gate is what we experience when we are accepted or not accepted into our earth family. So whatever your situation is, we all go through an experience regarding acceptance into a birth family or a family on earth of sorts, whether it's having one or not having one, but we all have an experience containing that so that we can then relate later. Then we move. Gate 4 is the third eye chakra. When we are younger, the descension, this is way different in the ascension and awakening process, but the descension process on the way down, this is when we begin to remember our dreams or we have the first chance to experience something deeper than the physical. This is the first time we say, oh, wait, life is more than just what I can see, like there's more. This is when we get that experience to start to, okay, I want to dig deeper. We all handle this in different ways. We all handle this at different times. But in this example, you can't move on to the next step until you've completed the step that you're on. So this requires us to really dig deep into how much we want to explore what it is that we can't see that still is present in this reality. Then we move to initiation. This is communication, truth, expression, listening, and independence. This is quite literally growing up. So there is a transition from the previous gate to this gate. There's like an awakening of sorts between those two, because you're beginning to express yourself from a deeper level. You're getting the foundation that you need to then build on later. That's what this stage is. So this is our growing up and everything that growing up entails. And we all experience very different experiences growing up, but this is the section of growing up that aligns us with either figuring out who we are or how deeply we will desire to figure out who we are. It sets the stage for the next couple gates to come. The next gate is the heart chakra initiation. This is love, compassion, and romance, relationship, healing, trust, and respect. This is our first significant heartbreak or relationship. This can be a very disappointing result to something that we were looking forward to. This could be, family troubles. This could be a romantic relationship. It's that first experience that really breaks our heart, like shatters our heart. That is this gate. The only way to get through this gate is to have your heart in your hand in a million pieces at the gate to be able to be let through. Because we need those experiences so that we're setting the stage for the future gates, and we can all make sure that we're experiencing everything and not skipping over something. Imagine not going through pain now in some aspects, but then later you're sitting down to watch someone's movie and everyone else is understanding but you, and you're like, well, why didn't I have that experience? This is making sure that doesn't happen. You're hitting every gate before passing to the next gate, so that, because the ultimate goal of this is to have a library of souls in which you can view everyone's story, you need to make sure that it goes in a certain order so that all of the steps are hit in the same understanding. So you need to experience 1 through 5 in order, and I need to experience 1 through 5 in order, so that there's a build up of our understanding from 1 to 5. Because if we experience that differently or experience it in a different order, then it's really just not going to hit the same. So the blueprint is to really ensure that we are each walking. You can think of it as like going down a strand of DNA, and we'll go into more of this later, but you need to pass each stage before moving to the next stage, and that's what this is all about here. We move to the next gate. Ironically enough, is straight at the bottom of the circle, and it is gate 7 with the solar plexus, which is very, I don't want to say ironic because it's all a grand plan, but I would just note that the solar plexus is the complete bottom of where the full consciousness, or where the top of the circle is in this. So this is really when darkness turns to light and we start to wake up to our own self-worth, identity, willpower. This is where we really start to dive into how much our ego is affecting us and our goals, success, and empowerment. Basically, this gate is the healing after the heartbreak. It's the first time the physical realm has really been controlled by the emotional or the soul or the spiritual realm. Basically, up until this point, we didn't realize how much our reality is affected by our consciousness, or how much our reality is affected by our mindset. And this gate is when we start to shine light on that and realize that the world that is around us is not at all the most important one. It's the one within us that is. So this is the gate that we really start to recognize that, and you'll see very soon that it really causes somewhat of a wave of reactions. The next is the sacral chakra initiation, which is our pleasure, creativity. It does deal with physical relations and sexuality, reproduction, but it also deals with like the emotions behind it. So it's not all physical. This is about finding and exploring your purpose and sexual identity. Some people at this stage will be focused more on career and basically focused like not so much on a connection with someone else, but on their connection with the planet or their connection with what their purpose is meant to be. But there's a connection of some sort, and it's a very intimate connection. So it could be with your passion, it could be with another person, it could really be with a very close friend, but there is some connection with an outside source here that makes you want to validate and explore and learn more about your connection with your own source. And that's really what this gate is. It's establishing a deep enough connection to someone else that you in turn want to establish a deeper connection with your own self. That's how you get through this gate. Next we go to 9, which is the root chakra initiation. Ironically enough, we have to be kind of back up in the air. This isn't necessarily our rock bottom. This is after we have rebuilt from that rock bottom and are just high enough back into the air. Like if you can imagine a full circle, right? Now cut that circle into 4 halves, straight down the middle, straight down the sides. So there's like a cross in the middle of the circle. This gate is on the right side, right below that line. So we are not quite all the way on our feet yet, but we feel like we're getting there, but we are just recovered enough on our path that if we were to get kind of dropped back down into chaos or confusion, that it would shake us up enough to cause ripple effects in the other areas of our life. And that is what this gate is. The root chakra is our grounding and security. It's our survival instincts. It's basically the test of, hey, did you learn what's important and what is worth protecting? This gate is after we think we're stable adults. We're like, okay, I got this all figured out. This is our first big test that comes and shows us, okay, you need to kind of like take a step back because you actually don't have it all figured out, and you actually don't have it all figured out even close, because you're about to really have to rebuild after you thought you had already built enough that you wouldn't have to start from ground zero again. If this is not ground zero, it's like ground 1. Like it's very close. It doesn't bring you back down as low as your initial rock bottom experience did, but this is the beginning of your awakening, the awakening that elevates you. Like there's like a practice awakening. Like you can think of it as all the times that all the actors had to go in and rehearse the scenes. Well, this is like the scene. This is like the scene that, like, in a movie you're watching and like there's build up, and then the epic thing happens, and then you have to rebuild from that. That's this. So we have a fall from grace, and the level triggers an awakening. So this is when we really truly start the ascension process. It's around this time that we realize that fulfillment comes from inside, and no matter how fulfilled we could potentially be with earthly pleasures, that it's not ever going to fulfill us like spiritual internal fulfillment would. So this is what brings us back to kind of hit that restart button and hit the ground running in terms of creating our life instead of settling for it. This is where free will comes into play big time, because you have to be ready, willing, and wanting to undergo the ascension process. Because again, if you picture a circle, you're ascending back up the hill. So you were at the bottom middle of the circle, and now you're ascending up the right side of that circle to get back to the top. So it's going to be a very difficult climb, and it's you basically have to undo or re-film the scenes that you've already played out, that you've already practiced for. The lessons are the practicing, the learning the lines, the going into the studio day after day after day to practice that scene and get it perfect. Now, ascension is when you actually film the scene for your movie. Granted, the whole thing is filmed because that's just how this process works, but like the actual main part of your movie is your ascension process. That's where like the hero's journey is beginning to come full circle, and the hero is taking the hero's rightful place as the main character in the movie. So we go to basically now each ascension part is step. So whereas going down, we went through the gates, going up, we're going up the steps. Now remember this because it's going to be very important later. Can't tell you why, it's a surprise. Anyway, so ascension part 1. We must start from the ground up. This is the choice that we make to go on this process. We reground ourselves. We heal our security needs, our earthly needs, by trusting our instincts and inner guidance. This is when we realize that the only person we can rely on is ourselves to rebuild. This is when we must take responsibility as a co-creator. And this is when we really must recognize that in order to come full circle, we need our spiritual, behind the scenes, the energy you can't see. That's the aspect of ourself that we need in order to move forward and upward on the ascension process. This step of the ascension is our root chakra. So basically on the way down, we went from the top chakra, which is the crown, down to the root. And now on the way back up, we're simply doing it in reverse because it's a circle. So what we did on the way down, we basically undo on the way up, but like in the opposite direction because we pass it as we go back up. So we ended at the root in terms of the gates we're going through. Then we turned that corner at the bottom of the circle, and now we're going back up through the chakras, starting with the root. So ascension part 1 is the root chakra. Ascension part 2 is our sacral chakra healing. This is finding our purpose and passion, or our soulmate. Basically finding a missing piece of your soul, like in the external world. So like you've been piecing yourself back together, and now this is the universe saying, good job, let me show you another piece. It's basically another representative of as above, so below. Basically that's the pattern that just keeps being repeated over and over. As above, so below. As above, so below. Basically a copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Think of it like a computer. So this part of the ascension requires you finding a missing piece of your soul. That could be a person, that could be like a very deeply, something that you're very deeply compassionate about, feel very strongly for, finding something that feels like this is meant to be in my life. This person, this aspect, this adventure, this avenue, this lesson, this job, this career path, whatever it is, it's that feeling that you get, that wow, I've been preparing all my life to find this, because literally, I mean, you literally have. So that's basically the correct feeling to receive, and that is what lets you know that you're on that part of the ascension process. Then we move on to the third part of the ascension process, which to move back up through the chakras. We were at the sacral chakra in the last one, so now we reach the solar plexus chakra, which deals with self-worth, identity, willpower, and ego. This is the step that brings us, if you split that circle into quarters, this is the one that brings us back up above that line. So we're in the top right section of that circle now. We're back above ground. You found and discovered your purpose, and now you're making it happen. So this is actually, technically it starts below ground and ends up above ground. It starts below that halfway line and ends above that halfway line of the circle. So you're pulling yourself back out of the ground, essentially. You are finding the seed for your plant. And now this part of the ascension process is when that seed breaks open and the flower or the plant begins to rise above the surface and bloom. This is your blooming. This is you taking what you have learned, finding what you were meant to find, and putting it into practice, or beginning to put it into practice. The next part of the ascension is the heart chakra. So we're going from the solar up to the heart. The heart chakra is healing your heart after the previous heartache and once again aligning with the vibration of love. A lot of times we discover our purpose or we start to make things happen in our healing process. If you've ever been through a really bad breakup or a really disappointing situation, afterwards it seems like you get this burst of energy to get things done, to just try and make it happen, to realign with what you're meant to be doing. Well, that's because that's the order of the blueprint. You discover your purpose, and then after you feel like you have that purpose again, after you find a reason to live again, or at least a reason that reignites other reasons, the spark that reignites the flame within you, after you have that, then there's enough light again to be able to focus on healing. And that's what happens in the heart chakra ascension. After the heart chakra, we have 5, which is the throat chakra. So after we're healed, then we reach communication, truth, expression. This is when we realized our purpose. We started to take steps towards that. Then we focused on healing. Now we get to enjoy actually living our purpose, living our love story, whatever it is. So this is when the career begins to flourish. The relationship starts to bloom. This is when everything that we have done the work for really begins to come to life. This is when we express ourselves and feel like we know ourselves enough to let the world know who we are. This, you'll see soon, is when our movie comes out. So now our movie's complete. Now we've reached part 6. It's not complete, but like the part of our movie that encompasses the hero's journey, that part, for the most part, is complete. Now we are able to expand and move on to help others on their journey. The first part of that is what is the 6th part of the ascension process, and this is the third eye. Intuition, dreams. The adult version of this is basically seeing through all the bullshit in the world. This is when we start to see through the cracks of the illusion that is presented to us through society. This is when we realize that, hey, maybe everything that we're told is not the truth. Maybe we need to dig under the surface and start to figure out things in our own way, because maybe we can't trust the sources that we thought were trustworthy. Basically, that's this part. And this is realizing that life is more than it seems. You've discovered that previously in the gate part of the third eye. But now you are spiritually aligning yourself to be able to do something about it. So you already knew that life is more than what it seems. Now you're realizing that what we're being told is actually not as it seems, and that you are meant to dig deeper and figure out with your third eye, with your intuition, with your inner sight, what is symbolically being shown to you on the outside. Basically, this is the step that is when we truly realize that no matter what happens in the world or on the surface, if we're not spiritually aligned and aware and aren't focused on our inner ascension process, then no amount of money or fulfillment or earthly pleasures will ever be enough. We can be completely overflowing in our external world. If our inner world is empty, if we haven't gone through and taken the knowledge and the experiences from each of these steps and turned it into purpose, turned it into becoming the main character in each of those scenes, so that our movie is worth watching, so that our movie comes together like we, the ultimate version of us, wanted it to. In order to do that, we must fill ourselves from each of these steps. We empty our glass on the way down through the descension process, so that on the ascension process and on the, we can choose what kind of liquid we're putting in our glass. Is it going to be clear? Is it going to be healthy water? Is it going to keep things flowing? Or are we going to fill our cup with oil and toxicity that basically by the time we get to the top, then we'll realize, oh no, we actually have to redo this whole process because I have to re-empty out all of this toxic water that I put in my cup, so I can choose to then fill it with clear, clean water that's going to sustain the best parts of your life that are to come. Then we move up again to the crown chakra, and this is when we realize that our purpose was with us all along. So basically, this is after we allow ourselves to see what is being shown to us through our third eye. This is when we choose that we're going to believe something different than what was being presented to us as an illusion in order to test us so that we could get to this point. So basically, this is when we realize and accept that all of these lessons and all of these experiences weren't trying to break us. They were trying to get us to become the main character in our own movie, so that when we looked back at our own movie, we were proud of what we created. We were proud of stepping up and taking on that main character role even when it was hard. We were proud of choosing to still stay strong on the way down and choosing to rise above on the way back up, because it's a circle and that's the only way to do it. Then we go to part 8 of the ascension process, which is when you basically realize and accept that all of this means that the intent was to literally come full circle. And that once you come full circle, you realize, okay, wait, if everyone's going in a circle, everyone else is not my competition, because we're not racing straight ahead to a finish line. We're all racing against time so that we can complete our own movie. This is when you realize that your role in other people's movie is not to try and be the main character in their movie. Your goal in the movie of everyone around you is to be a supporting actor in their movie and help them fulfill their role as the main character in their own movie the best that you can. Still maintaining the main character role in your own movie. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. If you're focused on your spiritual path, if you're focused inward, then your main character role is going to be the hero's journey. The hero falls, the hero gets back up, the hero discovers the reason for this, the hero turns pain into purpose. If you are focused on worldly, outside matters that are not spiritually minded and not for the benefit of the whole, if you are focused on just getting yourself as far along as possible instead of raising everyone as high up as possible, then you are going to be the villain in your story. Will you still be the main character? Yes, because that is the role that you signed up to play. So, in that instance, you either need to be the hero or the villain. So if you're not the hero, you're being the villain. And basically that is what it is meant by your shadow side. The role that you're not really supposed to be playing, but the role that you're taking on temporarily because you are misaligned role requires strength. That role requires you to look inwardly. And if you are too afraid, or if you are too tired, if you just don't feel like pushing ahead, because it's harder to look inward than it is to look outward. You need to turn your head around to look inward, and that can be painful and difficult. It's not as easy as just standing there and looking out. Looking in is difficult. And if you're not willing to do that, then you still need to be the main character, but the main character role that you're going to play at that time is the villain. That villain role brings you back on that descension process, because it empties out your cup from all the toxicity that has put into it that can't stay. So now, in terms of your movie, step 1 is you at 100% full consciousness, remembering who you're meant to be, remembering who you always were at your highest vibrational alignment and your full potential. This encompasses the version of you that agreed to go to Earth, have the human experience. You agreed to complete a movie in which you would be the main character in all the scenes that we talked about above. You said, okay, listen, I'll go to Earth and I'll keep going, having these cycles in Earth over and over as many times as it takes until I complete all of these steps in this order, so that my movie can match the movie of everyone else's in terms of blueprint, so that there is a basis for understanding. It's what is energetically creating the bridge between you and the next person, and the next person, and the next person, and the next person. You agreed to keep coming back over and over until that movie was complete. You agreed to have your remembrance of your true self concealed by a veil that would make you forget the reason you're here. This is the plot of the movie. The whole point of the movie is forgetting so that you can remember. So you have to do that, because that's the point of the movie. It's the plot. This was all so that you could go on the journey of discovering and remembering, because these experiences are needed for the evolution of your soul. And in order to appreciate what is to come, you need to have something to compare it to. That is this experience, this experience of the comparison. So in terms of your movie, future you is the narrator of your movie. Okay, so this is the consciousness that's sending out the script. Because you must be able to play each role in your movie. That includes producer, that includes director, that includes actor, supporting roles, etc. All of which you play in your earthly journey. So future you is basically reading the script of your life out loud to what will eventually be anyone else who wants to watch your movie. The highest conscious version of them. So they need to complete their cycle, their circle, come full circle, to rejoin with the highest conscious version of themselves, so that we can understand one another's story from a place of empathy and compassion for ourselves and for them. You basically need to keep having the same experiences over and over until your future self is satisfied with how well you played your part in that particular scene. Think of a director saying, okay, I didn't really like, let's actually run it from the top. Let's do that again. I didn't really like the way that you did that. It wasn't the best version of you. It wasn't the right mood for what I'm trying to produce in this scene. So we're going to have to do that again. Okay. It's not like you can just redo that, because you're not conscious of what's happening. You're unconsciously aware, but not consciously aware. That was part of the plot, right? So in order to refilm that scene, you need to wait until that experience comes up again naturally in your life. So if that's a breakup that you didn't handle the right way, if that's a breakup that you didn't learn the right experiences from, you need to build up another full relationship to get to the level that would bring on those same emotions, so that you can refilm that scene. However, if it's just a scene where someone gives you a dirty look and you want it yourself to react in a better way for your movie, okay, you might be able to do that scene again the next day. So that might be able to go quicker. But if it's something like a breakup, if it's something that takes the building up of, you need to rebuild that up so you can redo that scene. That's why it's very important and very wise to go into each event in your life thinking, okay, if I am the main character in a movie and this movie is run by me and I'm the main character, what could I be doing, or how could I handle what is happening right now so that future me would be satisfied with the role that I am playing enough so that I can move on to the next scene. The goal is to finish the movie. So work with your future self, work with your higher self, and do what's needed to finish your movie. You do that by just being the best version of you, being mindful of how you're coming across to others in their movie, because you don't want to be unnecessarily the villain in someone else's story just because you seem to be in a bad mood let's say you go in and get coffee every day from, let's say, Dunkin' Donuts. You go in at 10 o'clock in the morning, and every day you are in such a bad mood. You're great the rest of the day. You're in a great mood. You're the main character. You're doing great. However, in the cashier from the coffee place in their movie, you could be that villain that comes in every day and is just in a bad mood and like puts them in a bad mood or triggers them in some way. So you might not think that's a big thing because it's a small part of your day. You're in a bad mood, whatever. But in that other person's movie, you're the villain. You might not be maliciously doing it. You might not be doing it on purpose, but you're not being mindful of how you are acting. So you are coming off as the villain when you don't intend to be. This is why it says be kind to everyone. This is why it says treat everyone like you would like to be treated. We are all equal co-stars in one another's movie. Each of us is the main character in our own movie. Let's say each of us are 90% of our own movie. The purpose of the movie is to focus on ourselves. Just like the purpose of social media is to focus on yourself, the purpose of your movie is to focus on yourself. So in order to produce the best movie of your own, and in order to not taint your character in other movies, that's why you must treat everyone like you would like to be treated. Because you coming in, giving that person an attitude every day might be nothing in your movie. But that could be the build-up to one of the main scenes in their movie. And boom, all of a sudden, now you're a villain in their movie. Now you're a big villain in the movie. Maybe you just over and over and over triggered this person without even knowing it. But you refusing to acknowledge that this was happening doesn't mean that that person's movie stops filming until your movie or your environment catches you up with how you're acting. How you act is how the other person's movie captures you. So this is why we must be mindful of how we treat others and how we come across, because it's in the movie. It's going to be in the other person's movie. It's going to be in your movie. And while you might be the main character in your movie and go about the rest of your day pleasant, your only appearance in that other person's movie is one of villain. So that's what's going to come up in the movie of their life. So basically, your future self is standing on stage or standing in front of the camera, saying what is happening in like a narration sense. And then on the other half of the TV screen, there's current you that's actually like going about these scenes and acting them out, making them happen. Obviously not acting, it's real life, but it's stemming through or coming from what is being spoken by your higher or future self. So what future you is saying is being broadcasted to your current self through the channel intuition, even like physical signs that you see, angel numbers, repeating patterns, all of that. If you're focused inward, into that frequency, If you're tuned into your spiritual path, then these messages and these scenes and these elements will be heard and they'll make sense. But if you're focused on the outside, if you're focused on, think of it as you're standing on stage. If you're looking out, paying attention to what the audience is doing, you're not going to be focused on what you're supposed to be doing. If you're focused on fitting in with the crowd instead of being willing to be vulnerable and put yourself up on that stage, you're not going to be hearing what your higher self is saying. You have to turn your head towards the curtains, turn your head away from the crowd, and be willing to stand on your own, be willing to fall on your face on your own. That's the only way. Because if you're focused on being in and of the world instead of coming from the platform of your soul, focusing on material things or caring more about how the crowd thinks you're doing, if you're caring more about how your life is looking rather than how it's actually feeling, then the messages being broadcasted by your higher self either won't be heard by you because you're not going to be listening for them, or you wouldn't have been paying attention long enough and consistently enough for the messages to make sense. It's like turning on a TV show that you've never watched before and trying to jump in on a conversation. You might pick up pieces of it. You might get a general idea of what they're supposed to be doing or what they're doing, but it's not going to make as much sense as if you watched all the episodes leading up to that and actually sat there and paid attention to them. That is what it is mean to be focused on your spiritual path. You must be focused on it consistently enough to make sense of what you're being guided to do. This is what it means to trust your intuition, to trust that the feelings that you're getting from your gut, from your intuition, from your mind, whatever, from your heart, to trust that these feelings are for your benefit and to follow them to the best of your ability accordingly. You are the director of your movie in the sense that you're choosing who stays in your movie and how big of a role they play. Now remember, our soul remains conscious of the movie and the creation of the movie the whole time. Our human journey is the journey of forgetting that so that we can then remember and get the experience and collect the feelings that come from this journey. So you are the director in a sense that you're choosing unconsciously, but also consciously. You're choosing who is in your movie and how big of a role that they play through the use of energy as a form of currency. When you pay attention to something, when you pay attention to someone, you're buying that experience. What are you buying it for? You're buying it for your movie. So when you allow your consciousness to focus on something or someone, you feed that your energy and it reciprocates that with the experience. You are buying the experience. You're buying the emotions. You're buying the feelings that come from that person or that situation that you're paying attention to. You are paying them to receive and act out the script of the role that they're playing in your movie. If I am paying you in the emotion of anger, you're going to act out someone who is on the receiving end of anger in my movie. How you deal with anger depends on the dynamics of your own movie. But if I'm paying you in anger, I'm going to receive the experience of anger. If I'm paying you in love, you're going to experience that differently based on your movie. But what I will receive is your version of love because I'm buying that with love. This is what it means that experiences and people are mirrors. It's literally a transaction, but it's not meant to be viewed in the transactional sense that is prevalent in our world today. It's meant to be viewed in the sense that treat others like you want to be treated. Yeah, because what you are and how you present yourself is all the currency that is needed in terms of the movie you're creating. You're paying people based off of how you're treating them, and the only option for them is to return to you what they're being paid for. So let's say, for instance, there's someone who works at Rite Aid. They get paid literal money to be a cashier at Rite Aid from the company. Same thing works in the energetic sense in our movie. If I am paying you friendship, you're going to reciprocate to me what it means to you to be a friend. You might do that in a good way. You might do that in a bad way. It depends on how your movie has progressed up until that point. If you are at the point in your movie that you have not yet gone through, let's say, the heart chakra, if you have not yet learned heartbreak, if you have not yet learned the experience of being, left high and dry, let's say, if you have not experienced that yet, you might return friendship in a way that doesn't quite match up with how I view friendship, because I've already gone through those gates. I've already experienced things that make me view the element of friendship a little bit differently than you. Is that your fault? No, you just haven't gone through those gates yet. So part of the ascension process is realizing that not everyone is going to be on the same, not everyone will go through the same gates as you at the same age. That's where reincarnation really plays a big role, because it might take you 3 lifetimes to go through one gate if you just refuse to learn your lesson. If you refuse to film that part of your movie the right way, you're just going to keep reincarnating. Your higher self is satisfied with how you played the role in that aspect of your movie. So part of the ascension process is realizing and accepting that not everyone is going to come from the same level of understanding as you, because you need to understand that we all go through these gates in the order that we're meant to, and you can't rush someone else's journey. They need to film that scene in the way that their higher self was satisfied with, and the only person who can prepare you for that is yourself. This is really what it means when we say we have soul contracts with one another, because we all agreed before coming to Earth that we were going to play a certain role in each other's movie, and we agreed upon the payment that would be put forth in the form of energy. If you've ever felt like you owed something to someone, this is where that deeply rooted feeling comes from. If you're like, I feel like there's unfinished business here, I feel like we're not done. Okay, you're probably not, because there's probably another scene in your movie or that person's movie that your souls had agreed to film, but for some reason you didn't get to that scene yet. So that scene might come up now, that scene might come up later. Your job is to release and go with the flow and be willing to do the best that you can in the moment when that scene does arise. You might be waiting for the other person's movie to catch up. They might be a few scenes behind where they need to be in their movie to meet you at that scene in your movie so that it makes sense in both of your movies. So sometimes this is why we just need to release and go with the flow, let the universe take over, because you can't force someone to be further along in their movie than they are. They need to film these scenes in line, and if you kind of went on a growth spurt in terms of ascension, then you need to understand that you might be several gates further than someone who used to be in your life, and you need to let them have a chance to catch up on the gates that they need to go through so that they can start their ascension process as well. So this is why when a soul contract has been completed, our soul recognizes this and tries to release that person from our movie, cutting them from the remaining scenes. Because the ultimate goal of coming here is to complete our movie in its entirety that we have previously signed up to experience. So someone is taking our focus off of what needs to be filmed for our movie. If someone is causing us to not be in that main character role by taking us away from our power, if someone is causing us to focus more on their movie than our own, then that is a sign that that person is not right for us, because it is not allowing us to complete our main task here, which is to complete the movie we signed up for. Now, remember that when we signed up for this movie, for a movie that was going to cause us to go on a learning and experiencing process so that we could experience the equal and greater version of healing and ascending. So if it's not for you, there's a reason, and it's for your highest benefit. The ultimate goal of all of this is to have a library of souls. This is when you'll be able to sit calm, sit at a computer, sit at some kind of screen, and view everyone else's journey. Since time will eventually not be an issue, you'll be able to sit there start to finish and watch anyone's journey that you want to in seemingly the blink of an eye, and understand their whole experience, what made them who they are, based off of the movie of their life in which they are the main character in every scene. Imagine being able to take a peek into someone's entire life, see what happened that made them the way that they are. That allows us to build a bridge of understanding and compassion with them. This is when you'll see that underneath of all of our pain and all of our hurt, we're all just spiritual beings that are here to endure all of the human experience so that we can have this character development and evolve into the highest version of ourselves, which requires us to be tested and go through a certain amount of trial and pain, which is what this realm is ultimately for. Preparing your movie, and your movie has to be about something, has to be interesting, and it has to be understood by others, and that's what this human experience is all about. In order to be able to appreciate someone's story and be able to build that bridge of compassion and understanding, we must be aligned with the highest version of ourselves, because if not, there's the potential to use someone's story against them, and that is not what the Library of Souls is for, and that's not something the Library of Souls will allow to happen. Think of social media quote-unquote trolls, okay? So imagine if every bit of your vulnerability was out there for the world to see, and people acted or reacted to that like they do on social media. It would be a nightmare. It would just be, it would be actual hell. So in order for this Library of Souls to be available to you, you must be the highest ascended version of yourself, the healed version of yourself that has experienced pain and then healed from it, so that you don't then turn around and put that on someone else. You don't need to, because you know we're not competing with one another, and you also have felt what it feels like to be hurt. So there's no reason for you to then do that to someone else, especially in their most vulnerable parts of their life movie. We all go through a blueprint that allows us to experience similar gates of feelings and emotions, the ones mentioned previously. And while going through them, they may be different. They are going to present themselves different. I am going to have a different heart chakra ascension than you. I am going to have a different rock bottom than you. But we will still both have healed our hearts after experiencing heartbreak. And that is what builds that bridge. That is what connects us to one another in the Library of Souls. We get to experience events in different ways, but these ways together make sense in our movie. The scene of my movie doesn't have to make sense in your movie, but when it's put together with all the other scenes in my movie, it's going to make complete sense. If it also ran over into a part of your movie, when it's put together with all the parts of your movie, it's going to make sense in your movie. It might not make sense to us actively in the moment, but looking back, that's why hindsight is 2020. Hindsight is you looking back, seeing the whole entire movie that has been filmed of your life thus far, and being able to see it from the outside looking in so it makes sense. So there's a blueprint that makes sure we all get to experience each of the emotions and experience each of the gates that we need to walk through in order. It's very important this happens in order so that we all are. Think of it as each time you go through a gate, you say get 20% more awareness. So we need to experience each gate with the same amount of awareness so that this is what creates the foundation for underlying compassion with one another, for understanding one another's journey. Because, okay, I experienced that gate at 40% awareness, and so did you. So no matter what happened in the actual scene of our movie, doesn't matter. What matters is that we both experienced that same emotion at that same level of awareness. And when we see that happening to someone else, we can put ourselves in their shoes because we say, okay, you know what? I know what it feels like to go through something like that with only having that amount of knowledge. And because of that, I can put myself in this person's shoes and I can understand what made them do or say what they did. You might not agree with it, but you can understand it, and that's the purpose. You don't go into a library and pick up a book so that you can agree with everything in there. You pick up a book so you can learn and expand your own consciousness, your own state of awareness. The Library of Souls is no different. So all of the scenes of your movie put together come out as the motion picture of your life movie. The living, alive script, the living book of your life. So again, go back to the circle. There's a circle. We start at the top of the circle. Down the left side of the circle, down that hump on the left side. This is the descension process. This is learning and enduring so that we can decide. Okay, so we come down the slide, then we have to decide, do we want to stay where we're at and coast, or do we want to make the decision to go back up? You can coast for as long as you want, but your movie requires you to complete the circle. So once you're at the bottom, you can coast for years if you want, but if you don't follow the path of your movie, which is the ascension process, you're just going to have to keep coming back here until you decide what your purpose is, and your purpose requires you to make that trip back up the circle. So we go in the descension process of learning and enduring so that we can then get to the bottom and make the decision, the active, conscious, current decision to go on the process of ascension, which is healing and remembering our purpose. As above, so below. Literally, that is what is repeated over and over and over. Another way to state as above, so below is from the unseen to the seen. A little bit ago I said it's like copy and paste, copy and paste. It's as above, so below, aka unseen to seen, copy and paste it over and over and over. So much so that it brings us all the way to social media. Social media is the as below version of the Library of Souls that is being created by each of us in real time. We all have a collective purpose. I'm sure you've heard something along those lines. Our purpose is collective. Yeah, we're all going into the same library. We're all going to be equal in this library. It doesn't matter if you are, someone super, super famous or someone that no one knows about. Once we're all completed in the Library of Souls, we're all a book on the shelf. We're all equal. We all have equal opportunity to woo everyone with our movie because we're the main character in our movie. So social media is the as below version of this library of souls. Since there is a blueprint, aka the gates and ascension process, this ensures that we learn everything we need it to learn and experience everything that we need it to experience before our timeline eventually joins with that of our higher self, aka our movie is completed. We've become who we're meant to be. Our book can go on the shelf in the library and we can go about living the rest of our lives. Because if anyone wants to know what made us who we are, they can grab the Library of Souls book and figure it out. They can learn about us. You become the purpose that you were seeking. This blueprint allows us to make sure that we're all on track with one another so that we can all realize that we were actually the main character in our own movie all along, each in our own right. So what you is your higher self coming up with and speaking the script. What the world sees at the same time is your brain and your inner guidance coming up with the content that you put out to your social media and through communications in your life. So think of it as a TV screen. On the left side of the TV screen is future you telling your story, as on the right side of the screen, current you is going about your day-to-day, acting out these scenes without even being consciously aware of it, proving the connection that is omnipresent between your soul in the spirit realm and your soul on the earthly realm. What your movie is you going through the human experience, learning, hurting, healing, and growing. The world sees what the world's version of this is your posts, your stories, and your conversations with others about these events that are happening. So again, the left side of the TV screen, co-stars, other people coming in and out of your movie and adding input, scene changes, character swaps, all of that. What the world sees is this coming full circle. So basically the world sees this happening through your social media. What the movie sees, the left side of the screen, is your life coming together to form the motion picture based off of what scenes you choose to put into your movie and the roles that you have had others play on display in the movie. What the world sees, the world's version of this on the right side of the screen, is your social media presence, also known as your higher self or your higher consciousness, coming together with your current self, coming together with the greater plan, coming together with everyone as a whole. What does this mean? Social media is the literal reinterpretation of us filming our own movie of our own lives. It's the completion of that cycle as a whole, as a collective, because the whole world is focused on social media. Why? Because it is the literal reinterpretation of us filming our own movie of our own lives. Our external is meant to bring light to our internal. We film ourselves all day. We're either responding to a situation or we're reacting to a situation. Why is that? If we respond, it's when we're going with the flow and going along with the movie. If we're reacting, it means that we're going to have to go back and refilm that scene because we are taking how we should be acting and acting in the way that our higher self is not going to accept into the movie. So when you're responding, you're going with the flow. You're letting your movie happen. And even if, let's say, you plan on the next scene of your movie going on a date. Okay, well, life has other ideas because that's not the scene that's needed in your movie. So you can react and cause a huge scene about this date falling apart, or you can respond by just saying, okay, and allowing your life to bring you to the next scene of your movie that could take place right now as you wait for that date scene to build up in your movie in a way that would make sense.